Good afternoon. It is my great pleasure to spend the next 15 minutes with you to talk about data centers and specifically AI factories. And there are good reasons, because as you heard this morning, I think I heard the word data centers at least 5 or 6 times. It's been a great business for us, and it is now, with AI factories, I'm adding to the marketplace a super attractive business and a significant growth opportunity. So as I said, it's been a growth engine for us, an area where we outperformed the market, specifically in the United States. And I'm leading our Siemens Industry Incorporated business in the United States. And for the last 5 years, that also meant that I've been at the helm of smart infrastructure. And now, with the increasing adoption of AI and the accelerated investments that we see in AI infrastructure, we are getting our arms around this marketplace. The interesting thing that we see is that the shift towards AI and the infrastructure that is needed to run these massive data centers, foundational shifts in both technology and scale are taking place. So what I will spend now the remaining time on is to walk you through the reasons why we are really, as a company, best positioned to capitalize on the changes that we see on the horizon. Data centers have been an important piece of our overall business. You see here just last year, you already heard the number this morning, we've been able to increase our revenues just last fiscal year by 40% versus fiscal 24. And that is even more remarkable because prior years, we showed significant growth already. As a result of this, we have been able to increase significant market share, 7 points over the last couple of years. So of course, the question is, how do we do this? And you hear us talk a lot about customer centricity, but that is really at the core. Because we have great relationships, very regular interaction with all the hyperscalers that are playing in this business. In addition to that, we are working actively with co-locators that are becoming an ever increasing force in the data center space. But we don't stop there. Partnerships with GPU manufacturers are part of the ecosystem that we successfully manage. And to ensure customer proximity and really be where the business is, we've established 8 centers of competence around the world, and most recently in India and Chennai, where we have now over 200 people really working with our customers to craft the technology of the future. From a portfolio perspective, of course, we draw on the strength on market-leading portfolio, whether that is in electrification. You heard Rainer talk about our industrial automation portfolio, but also in the building space. And when needed, we also have the ability to help our customers through financing. And where a customer needs solutions beyond their expertise, beyond that, we have this ecosystem that we can draw on. And I'll talk about that more later. But of course, the revenue growth that you've seen doesn't come without investments. You heard earlier, just in the US alone, in my area of business, we've invested over $285 million to increase capacity. And of course, the latest addition to our factory fleet in the US was Fort Worth, with a significant investment in our switchboard assembly capabilities. But we're also investing in other places of the world, and most specifically here in Germany, with 100 million euros going into Frankfurt. And these investments that we've made have allowed us to be really the reliable supply chain partner that our customers need. And that means serving them on time, as promised, with market competitive lead times. So I hope you see that we're playing from an absolute position of strength in this place. And so with that said, let me shift to what we see ahead. AI factories, very attractive market, a large market for us, and one that is expanding a lot faster than what we're expecting in the cloud space. You see, we see about 4 times faster pace for AI investments than we see in the traditional cloud area. And what that means is that by about 2030, we expect that about 70% of the data center fleet around the world will be able to run AI workloads. But with that come pretty significant technology shifts, and I'll walk you through what that means in a little bit. For us, this translates into a significant need for innovation, a significant opportunity to bring new technology into the marketplace. But we're also talking about significantly different higher performance requirements. because complexity is going up. And that allows us to really differentiate in all core areas of our business and in the interaction of these subsystems in electrification, in industrial automation, as well as in digital solutions. You heard Tony talk, but also then in the interplay of all these different portfolio elements. So this is what we see in terms of market potential, and I need to start here with a disclaimer, because we're talking about a very active marketplace, and the numbers that you see up here on the page, they assume that the technology that is needed to enable this growth, but more importantly, power to feed these data centers, is available in the time frame that is needed to support this growth. So overall, when I look here at the portfolio, you see 4 different buckets where we're positioning today. Digital and software, which is strategically the really most important one, because this is where we can really support our customers, starting with design and simulation that we've talked about, for this real high-speed journey that does not leave any room for error. Secondly, automation and the building space will grow a lot more in importance given the complexities that I'll touch on in a minute. Electrification and power has been a stronghold of ours, and that will continue to be a very important piece of our business in the future. And last but not least, also services. Another opportunity for us to increase our share of recurring revenues. So what is this AI factory that we're talking about, and how is it different from what we know in the cloud space? A couple key factors. First of all, AI factories are a lot bigger than the data center of the past. So you see here we're talking capacity and installations going from megawatts to gigawatts. We're already working actively on 100 megawatt designs. The market is talking about going to 1 gigawatt. There's even talk in the industry about scaling up to 4. To put this into perspective, the city of Munich on average draws about 800 megawatts. So just to give you an idea, so this is a lot of power. It's driven by the shift from CPU computing to GPU computing. And in order to do this and scale like this in reasonable footprint, the power density in racks needs to increase. We're going from, if you say, we were 1x a little time ago, we're going to 10x, 40x. In some cases, there's talk about 80x. What that means to us, I'll touch on. At the same point of time, we don't only see technology change, but we're also seeing innovation cycles compressing. Where things used to change in years, we're now talking about 6 months increments, because this is what the GPU industry operates at, and this needs to be absorbed in the electrical infrastructure. At the same point of time, the heat in a gigawatt data center needs to be brought out of the data room, and this means we're shifting from air cooling of the past to liquid cooling. And so I hope you're getting a sense of the complexities that are coming into play here. What this means for us is that system performance is becoming a whole lot more important. So let me translate this into the portfolio that we as a company can bring to the table. I'd like to lead with digital, because this is really where I see the opportunity to create the most significant differentiation and add the most value to our customer base. Again, starting with design and simulation, which, by the way, also includes thermal optimization and thermal management. We can enable customers to shorten time to market. And this is important because what we're talking about here is a race between the hyperscalers to dominant position in the AI space. And every month they can launch sooner counts. How do we do this? Through digital designs, we enable the hyperscalers to design for constructability. Through skidding solutions, we help them cut the time to bring infrastructure to life, while also in parallel optimizing energy efficiency. And when you're talking about a gigawatt facility, every 0.1% that you can shave off in energy consumption counts. That is real money. At the same point of time, we're leveraging the common data fabric between all the systems that are touched on to train our lifecycle digital twin. Optimize in the digital world, and then feed it back into real life to improve outcomes on an ongoing basis. And there's some very specific challenges also in the AI space that I haven't touched on, and that is the power characteristics. Here we're already working on a real-time digital power twin to generate data sets that the utilities that now need to supply power to these data centers desperately need and are asking for. Because of all this complexity, we believe that automation and the importance of PLC-based high-end industrial automation will increase drastically. It needs to, because human beings can no longer handle the complexity of the system that I'm talking about here. And of course, we're building here on Reiner's market-leading portfolio. And the secret sauce that we plan to deploy here lies in the connection between the three main pillars of the AI factory, being compute, cooling, and overall the power supply. And whoever manages to control this system in the best way is the one who shall win the race. At the same point of time, we have to handle a lot more data points. Imagine millions of data points that need to be handled quickly in real time. You can only do this with industrial automation. From a power perspective, what we're seeing is a shift from alternating current, AC, what we're all used to, from home, to DC, direct current. This is the only way to get the energy that is needed by these AI factories into the compute room. There's no other way around it. So what that means for us, because we want to do this safely and reliably, is a significant innovation opportunity. Because we need to switch DC, which is very different from AC technology. DC operations require different protection and very different distribution systems. And we already have some of the portfolio, and we've been working on developments in this space for quite some time, and we will make new portfolio available as early as 2026. I touched a little bit on the different power characteristics of an AI factory compared to the traditional cloud center. And without going into many details, a cloud data center runs millions of processes in parallel, so imagine a very steady load that we can handle extremely well. The AI factory is very different, and that lies in the way how the processes and the calculations run. But imagine a very erratic power profile. And that power profile is extremely hard on the grid. Opens up for us another innovation opportunity because that load pattern needs to be compensated and stabilized. So we're looking into that as well. So can we do this alone? Not really. We believe today that our key differentiation opportunity as Siemens really lies in our core, in the digital space, in the automation space, and of course in electrification, in the connection and the optimization of these building blocks themselves. But if we really want to unlock the full value that we can add and really provide our customers with a truly optimized AI factory, and I'm talking from chip to grid all the way, we're working with partners. That's the only way to do this with speed. So the logos you see on this page here are all market-leading companies. nVent is one of our strategic cooling partners in the United States. Delta Electronics, of course, a global player, where we're partnering on UPS and energy storage, so battery systems. But you heard this morning from Jensen, and we're also working very closely with NVIDIA as the leading entity right now in the compute space. Doing this really allows us to work with market-leading players in this field, with that in turn fostering innovation, interoperability between all these subsystems, and most importantly, do this collaboratively, faster, and in the scale that is needed. So the three key things that I would like all of you to take away from the session today is, first of all, we have outperformed in the data center market, and we intend to continue on this journey. Secondly, AI factories will come with a lot of change, technological shifts, significant scaling, will require a lot of innovation and system thinking. And for all these reasons and everything I just walked you through, we are simply best positioned to capitalize on this challenge and the change that we see ahead. And with that, that brings me to the end of my remarks. And it is now my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Executive Vice President for Data and AI, newly joined from Amazon AWS, Vasi Fillerman.
Thank you.